Everyone has their own personal hell. These words ran through my mind over and over as the tall, stocky prison guards escorted me to the execution room. My arms started to hurt as they were bent in an awkward position, held by the straitjacket tightly strapped around my orange prison jumpsuit. I heard the various prisoners of D blocks shouting random shit out to me as I passed them. One of the inmates, Frank Morris, went as far as stopping me, just to mock me. I bet tonight's show will be a real shocker, huh, pretty boy? I'll see you in hell, Morris, you piece of shit. If I can't escape this shithole, you sure will, buddy. We were never buddies, Frankie. He reached his long, skinny arms out to strangle me, but failed as a guard smacked his calloused knuckles with his guard's baton. Frank flinched at this, stepping back while rubbing his hands and scowling the guard with bad looks. Sure, kiddo. When you get there, tell Doc to go screw himself, all right? Why don't you do the same? Those are some fighting words, Charles. A guard stepped in and pushed him back through the bars on his cell. If you don't shut up, I'll break both of your hands, Frank. That immediately made Morris walk back to his bunk bed and sit down slowly before waving to me a sad goodbye. I knew the asshole hated me as much as I hated him, but he still felt sorry for me. I mean, I didn't have a choice. I didn't provoke the guards or the wardens to do this. Unlike Arthur Doc Baker, who was killed trying to break out of here a couple of years ago, I admit that I brought these life sentences upon myself. I'm a psychopath. Batshit crazy. But who isn't in a world like this? Another prisoner stopped me to send his condolences. Sort of. That's what you get for banging my wife Kelly, you son of a... The other guard spoke up. Enough sympathy for the dead man. Let's go. He violently shoved me forward, and a horrible look appeared on my pale face. We finally reached the heavy, armored metal doors to the execution room. Warden James A. Johnston was standing there smirking at me, holding the keys to the huge doors. One of the guards beside me nodded, and he unlocked the doors with a loud click, before two more beefy guards walked up from behind me and forced the doors open with a loud squeak and then a creak. A guard behind me pushed me inside the room and forced me into the chair we called Old Sparky, before strapping a metal piece onto my head tightly and wrapping my limbs with leather straps. I'll see you in hell too, James. I'm sure you will, Charles. I'm sure you will. As I embraced my horrible fate, I peered into the bulletproof spectating glass ahead of me that divided this now empty room from the spectating room that contained the warden, 5 guards, and the families of all those I've abused, taken advantage of, murdered, etc. As I said, I am a psychopath, but in a world like this, who isn't? I'm proud to admit it. I'd do it again. I'm being executed for 23 killings, most of which consisted of young women or boys who I took advantage of in multiple ways, or even their parents. I actually took the lives of 36 people in total. I was just never caught or convicted for those extra treats. I even got 9 police officers and 3 prison guards in my first escape from this place. I was caught a few weeks after those events, though. It's not like I gave a damn. As I stared into the eyes of the family members of my victims, I saw one mother start crying and the warden of the prison reaching for the huge magnetic switch. He nodded and pulled it down. I felt the electricity run through my body. I screamed and squealed like a little girl as my flesh and blood started to boil like molten lava underneath my rotting ground-like skin. Everyone from behind the glass looked away except for the sadistic Warden Johnson, who laughed cruelly as my brain melted like black ice in an oven. Suddenly, the searing, electrifying pain stopped. Everything went white, then black. I gasped and woke up, coughing and hacking while laying upon a small, bare bed with a hard, lumpy mattress, in a strange white room with no windows and a tightly sealed door. The room was moderately large, and everything was dull, bare, and pure white. The walls, the door, the bed, and even the mattress. In the corner, there was a small toilet in the style you would see in a prison. I jumped up off of the bed at a pure reaction and screamed, "Where the hell am I?" No answer. I strongly marched up and down the room lengthwise with my arms behind my back, holding on to each other tightly as if they were living creatures losing hope as I was at this time. I looked down and noticed I was wearing a black prison jumpsuit similar to that of which I was wearing back at the old nut house. I grumbled and grasped the bridge of my nose tightly in frustration. There was a knock at the door. I stopped for a moment out of surprise. Who could it be? I heard a voice from beyond the door. It sounded as if it belonged to a young woman about 16 to 19 years old, the kind of person I strive to truly meet, and to get close to. "Dr. Charles Kelly? Are you in there? Are you awake?" I sighed and replied without strife. "Sorry, my dear, I'm no longer a doctor, but yes, I am here. I'm demanding to know who the hell you are and where the hell I am. Tell me or there will be consequences." She again replied after a few moments of an awkward silence. "Hell. That's just it. You're in hell." "Wait, what?" "You just died and your soul has been harvested by the Dark Lord. It's about as simple as that. I will be your guide. This is your new home." I heard keys rattling as the huge metal door was unlocked by the young lady. She entered the room without hesitation. She had gorgeous, natural blonde hair that was tied in a bun to the back of her head. Her face was obviously free of any sort of makeup. I noticed this as I stared into her stunning blue-green eyes curiously. Her rosy red lips stuck out like yellow on black, and her perfectly shaped nose made me just want to... I stopped. I wanted to get past that. I was no longer who I used to be. At least I wanted to believe that. Certain parts of me didn't. Her magnificently beautiful eyes were covered by large, black prescription glasses that made her irises appear much larger. I looked down upon her rosy red cheeks, extraordinarily special looking, something you could only witness once in a lifetime, like a perfect sunset, although there were many like it. I sensed that this one was absolutely perfect. I had never felt such emotions in my 67 years of life. It felt as if my frozen, microscopic heart was growing and melting at the same time. It felt as if I was in love. Her perfect lips curled into a twisted smirk as she sensed I was spacing out into her universally wonderful eyes. If I'm dead in hell, why has this ride been so perfect so far? Maybe because I have merely chosen the form that suits you the most. Something, or someone, you would feel comfortable with. But I don't feel comfortable. My chest, it hurts. Oh, well, you are already dead, so what's the worst that could happen? She let out an adorable giggle before walking out into the long, dark hallway, filled with identical rooms door by door, all locked. Are you coming, Charles? I nodded silently and followed her. She was dressed in a white lab coat covering a red, buttoned shirt above a dark skirt that ran to her knees. Even further down, she was wearing a pair of high-heeled stilettos. I followed in pure ecstasy. So, how does this work? Where are we going? What's going... First of all, stop with the questions. Second of all, I am not your friend, nor am I your enemy. I am merely your guide. She signaled for me to enter an old, rusty, unsteady elevator shaft at the end of the hallway. I did so and she followed. Tell me, Mr. Kelly, have you ever heard of the 9 Great Plains of Hell? Who hasn't, Miss Nashton, Emma Nashton. Of course, that is merely a pen name. I'm not even a human. Like I said, I chose a form of something that you would like, something you would not fear." Again, I nodded slowly as she moved her hand to press a red button on the inside of the elevator while holding a brown clipboard with a massive amount of paper stacked into it. "So you are a demon. It's about as simple as that. I am the demon representing lust." The elevator ride felt like it was taking forever. The whole time it felt as if the contraption was going to fall and kill us both, but, well, I was already dead. I'm not sure whether this is a nightmare or a dream come true. Why do you say that, Mr. Kelly? Oh, no reason, my dear. After about 25 minutes, we finally stopped. The doors screeched open, hurting my ears. It felt as if they were going to bleed. We're here, Charles. Where is here? Where do you think? Inferno, or, well, Dante. The second plane of hell. Oh? Yes, you are here for the people you hurt. You know what you did. For that, you now get to sit here and rot for the rest of eternity. Have fun, Mr. Kelly. She pushed me out of the elevator, and it started to go up again without me this time. Dante, or well, Inferno, was a medieval-based setting. As I looked around from the elevator shaft that had now disappeared, I saw a very long corridor-like hallway that was filled with eerie paintings that stared at me as I walked past. These paintings were of other people that were eternally stuck within this dimension, such as Helen of Troy or Marilyn Monroe. I kept walking and walking and walking. I couldn't see the end of the hallway. It angered me. It felt as if I had walked at least 10 miles by now. I looked around, leaning my hands on my knees, panting for air. On both sides of the hall, there were curiously mysterious rooms in all different styles. There were also open windows throughout the long hallway. Out through the windows, I could see the hellish plains that lie below. There were small volcanoes spewing out molten lava, flying into the sky that was roofed by a caved ceiling. It looked as if I was underground. I could hear screams from the prisoners in the distance and in the strange rooms that laid ahead. On the left, I saw a padded cell with a man tied up in a straitjacket. He was hanging upside down from the ceiling by his feet, and below him laid a burning pit of lava. Another room had a man buried in a sandy pit within the room, screaming as rocks pelted his face, wounding him further and further for eternity, and another room where a man was tied up with all of his limbs from the ceiling and floor, being beaten by men dressed in robes with electric batons. He was screaming as they burnt his bare, exposed skin. On the right, I saw a naked woman lying on a metal operating table with mysterious spiked helmet around her head. The spikes were strategically placed on the inside, so she was in a position in which, if she moved, the helmet would compress and demolish her wet, teary face. The woman was being cut, spliced and operated on by a man in a plague doctor outfit. She was alive and awake the entire time, while the man was pulling her organs and intestines out every which way. In the other two rooms, a man was being burnt and branded with metal cattle prods on the top of his exposed body, and being beaten with metal baseball bats by the same minions, dressed in plague doctor outfits below, while another man was being impaled and revived over and over again through the chest, while he was tied up in an extremely awkward position, his arms on the ceiling and his legs planted on the floor. Hell was a good place for me. I liked it here so far. I finally reached the end of the 100-mile hallway, or at least it felt like so. My calves burnt like there was no tomorrow. There were 2 large, demonic red doors blocking my way. I was out of breath, so I sat down, leaning against the hallway's enormously tall walls. As I did this, 2 demonic beings beat me into unconsciousness. Everything went white, then black. I awoke and was strapped in a chair by my arms, legs, and waist. I tried to squirm, but it was physically impossible. Across the room, an enormous man sat behind a brown maple office desk and a black office chair. He was wearing a red mask covering his entire head and black pinstriped suit over his white blood-stained shirt. He was drumming his fingers along viciously. "Charles Kelly?" "Satan?" I replied sarcastically. "How did you know?" "Wait, just a wild guess." His voice was entirely booming and deep. It sounded like a growl almost, but at the same time, it sounded fairly calm. His voice was conquering. "How shall we decide your eternally painful punishment?" I was silent. "Oh, you took advantage of 15 little boys and girls before killing their parents and then themselves. You killed 8 random people that you just didn't like. And you murdered 13 officers of the law, all before playing with their corpses. Well now, I didn't see that coming. Kelly, I really do wonder what goes on in that fucked up mind of yours." I wonder that too myself sometimes. There was an explosion beneath me, and I was blithered with smoke as I once again started hacking and coughing. When I stopped and looked around, I was exposed, strapped on a wheel similar to the Wheel of Fortune. Standing beside me was the beastly man that smiled at me and spun the wheel as hard as he could. He let out a grunt as he pushed the humongous wheel down. I screamed like a little bitch as I started to feel sick and the wheel came to an eventual stop. I heard his booming voice again as the world started spinning for me out of dizziness. Well. I was silent. Everything went black, then white, then gray. I opened my eyes to notice that all of this shit was just a mere dream. I never really died, nor did I go to hell. I was just sleeping. I woke up to find that I was staring at the bottom of the bed above me. The warden walked into my cell. "All right, Charles, let's get going." "Wait, what?" "You're being executed today. I'm sure it'll be a real shocker." He laughed and rubbed his calloused hands together as 2 large guards walked over to me and carried me away as I started screaming and ranting about my nightmare. I could barely breathe as this tight straitjacket crushed my body. As I followed the warden to the electric chair, the world started turning gray, the edges fading to black. I could smell sulfur in my nostrils, and the warden's body slowly started turning demonic.